Hello world! Today we're going to talk about something that I've been doing a little bit of research on lately, and that is facial cleansing cloths. I like to use cleansing cloths as my makeup remover and then follow it up with a traditional cleanser, a moisturizing cleanser. There's some debate as to how facial cleansing cloths should be used or if they should be used at all. There's the camp that believes that the cleansing cloths are more harsh on your skin than a gentle cleanser. They can leave dirt behind, they can push bacteria around your face. Maybe true, maybe not. One thing that is true is that if you use only a facial cleansing cloth for your face, you may be in a position where you're lacking the potential benefits from a more moisturizing or an anti-aging cleanser. But that aside, let's assume that we do want to use facial cleansing cloths, as I do. So how do you go about choosing them? Now, I'm a person that has very dry skin. A few hours into the day, my face gets tight, the skin feels tight, it feels dry, it feels itchy, and so I really need to be careful about the products I choose. Now, I would say my skin is slightly sensitive. It's not very sensitive. I'm probably the closest to normal skin, or the barely sensitive side of normal skin, but it can be sensitive to certain ingredients. So I try to be careful about what is in the facial products and the cleansing products that I choose. So all of this came to be when I had my former favorite cleansing cloth was a Neutrogena cloth, and I had run out of them, and I happened to be in CVS, and I came across cleansing cloths from e.l.f., and they were super cheap, and so I picked them up and I brought them home and tried them out that evening, and oh my gosh, instantly my face was stinging and it was hurting and burning, and get this stuff off of me. Not a good experience. Now, I thought maybe it was reacting with, a moisturizer or a serum or something I'd put on my skin that day. So I gave it a few tries, and I tried the e.l.f. cloths a few times, and I just could not use them. They just burned the heck out of my face. So that led me to two things. First, I had to find another cleansing cloth, and next I had to figure out why the e.l.f. cloths were disturbing my skin so much, and what can I take from that experience in terms of finding one that won't bother me. Around that same time, I was watching a video from Angie at Hot and Flashy, and she was recommending the Kirkland daily facial cloths, and these are available at Costco, and I love Costco, so I had tried them out and I really liked them. So I'm going to share with you today some of the research behind these products, the ingredients in them, what kinds of ingredients you should be looking for when you're looking for your own products, what to avoid basically, why to avoid those things, and I did a little bit of research on some of the more common popular facial cleansing cloths out there, just so you have some information at hand. So let's get to it. Now, I've got a few rules of thumb, so if you just want to take these rules of thumb and run with it and be done with it, you can do that. But I'm actually going to go through everything I looked up and learned, and the hows and the whys and all of that. So buckle up if you're interested in the whole 9 yards. You're going to get it. If you just want the basics, my rules of thumb: avoid parabens, avoid the bromopols, which they're easiest to pick out in an ingredient list. They usually start with bromo, like 2-bromo or 5-bromo. I also avoid SD alcohols, and because I've got dry skin, I try to avoid all alcohols that are not fatty alcohols, and I avoid the mysterious word fragrance. Now, that's the nutshell. So if that's all you came for, have a nice day, go check out your products and see what's in them. But I'm going to explain a little bit about what these things are, why we should avoid them, if you feel that you may be sensitive to them. First up, parabens. You're seeing paraben-free things everywhere right now. It's one of those things where it's becoming a trendy, marketable thing. It's kind of like gluten-free things, when something will say gluten-free and it's like, well, it never contained wheat to begin with, so why do you even have to put that on there? But it's becoming a marketing term, but there's some thought behind it. So what are parabens? They are preservatives that are used in your products, lots and lots of personal care products. So, lotions, underarm deodorants, foundation, mascara, anything liquid, cream, that kind of thing. And the idea behind paraben preservatives is that we don't want bacteria and fungi and microbes growing in our products. And that's true. I don't want to put microbes on my face that don't belong there. So the preservatives inhibit the growth of these things, and that's good. Parabens have been in use for 60 years or so at this point. And they are considered safe in modern, recommended usages in Canada and in the U.S. The Cosmetics Ingredient Review, the CIR, deems them safe at recommended levels. So I looked up kind of what is recommended levels, and the average consumer in the U.S. uses 9 personal care products on their body every day. And that would be all of the personal care products that could potentially have parabens in them. Now, if that's considered normal, and that's an average sort of amount of use, how much do I use is my next thought. So I dug out my morning skincare routine and my evening skincare routine and my typical makeup products. And when I did that, I found that I use at least 6 different products in the morning, at least 8 different personal care products in the evening, and at least 4 in my daily makeup routine. So every day I am putting at least 18 products that may or may not contain parabens on my body. So I'm probably using more than the average consumer would be using. So is that safe? Well, what's unsafe about them? So parabens, they have been not conclusively linked with causing cancer, but there's evidence that we need to do more research on this, because parabens weakly mimic estrogen, and we do know for a fact that estrogen exposure is known to be linked to breast cancer development and progression. And does that mean that the parabens are actually causing cancer themselves? Not necessarily. We don't know that yet. The evidence is not conclusive. However, if you think about it and you're using a lot more products than the average daily consumer, and the safe levels have been determined based on a certain level of usage, what you're really doing is putting yourself potentially up for repeated, prolonged, cumulative exposure to something that weakly mimics estrogen. And if that could add up and eventually become something that can encourage cancer growth and progression, well, we don't really know. It could. It's a potential hazard that needs to be studied more. Research has shown that there was a study done with young, healthy men, and they applied a paraben-containing body lotion to their skin, and several hours later, the parabens were able to be detected in both their blood and their urine, meaning that not only are the parabens being absorbed from the product, they're being metabolized by the body, and they're being excreted. So they're in our systems. They are getting into our systems through these products. If they turn out to be dangerous, then we are setting ourselves up for a pretty big potential health hazard. So just because we've got enough unknown information out there, I avoid parabens. I try to anyway. I have not yet gone through my entire stash to make sure that nothing I have in my, my shampoos, my conditioners, that nothing has parabens in them. But I'm getting there, and it's on my list of things to do. So that's the deal with parabens. I would like to avoid them personally. Next up, we've got the bromos. I'm just calling them that because that's typically part of the word that's in the name in the ingredient lists. So here's the full name of this ingredient that you can look for. The number 2-bromo-2-nitropropane-1, 3-deo. There you go. All of the variations, or most of the variations on the name here, do have bromo in them. So keep an eye out for the bromos. And what is this? It's another antimicrobial. It's used as a preservative. The danger here, and this is not the only ingredient that has this potential, but it's one of the more common ones. Under conditions where this bromo ingredient decomposes or breaks down, what happens when it's in an alkaline solution, for example, or when it's kept at or exposed to higher temperatures, it breaks down, and that frees up nitrites and low levels of formaldehyde. Now, the formaldehyde can react with other chemicals in the formulation of your product that you're using, and that can form nitrosamines. Nitrosamines? Not sure exactly how you say it, but nitrosamines, we're going to go with that, are known carcinogens. Some of them, many of them actually. And the ones that aren't known carcinogens, many are suspected carcinogens. That means they're known to cause cancer. So maybe the product on the shelf was, as formulated, not going to cause us any problems, but if it sat in a hot shipping truck on the way to the store and it happened to break down enough that those chemical components changed, you could be dealing with a potentially cancer-causing agent. So I'm not a fan. I'm going to avoid them. Don't like cancer. So those are two big ones. Those are probably the two biggest ones that I avoid. Next up, we've got an ingredient that it is used as a preservative, just like the parabens and the bromos, but it's generally recommended as better than the parabens or the bromos. It's phenoxyethanol, and it can be an irritant. It's one of those ingredients that if you have very sensitive skin, it may be something that causes irritation to your skin. And especially if it's higher up in the ingredient list, you know, the way these ingredient lists are written, the items that are closest to the beginning of the list are in the highest concentration, and as you get toward the end of the list, they're in lesser concentration. So if you are sensitive to it, or if it is higher up in the ingredient list, it may be something to look out for. It's an ingredient that my skin has no problems with. It's fairly low rated as a potential allergen, but be aware that it can be considered an irritant. So those are primarily the preservatives of note. Another thing that I avoid are SD alcohols. Now, I've got three different kinds of alcohols to talk about. The first would be the SD alcohols, which I avoid whenever possible. An SD alcohol is a mixture of ethanol with a denaturing agent. And ethanols are linked to birth defects, they're linked to developmental and reproductive toxicity, organ toxicity, some cancers. So those are not really the best things to put on your face if you are concerned about any of those things. Pregnant, planning to get pregnant, etc. So that's the SD alcohols. And in your ingredient list, they will usually start with the capital letters SD, followed by a number, followed by other words, followed by an OL, an all word, an alcohol of some kind. The next kind of alcohols I only avoid because I've got dry skin and they tend to be drying. That's really every other alcohol that is not a fatty alcohol. So what is a fatty alcohol? There are fatty-based alcohols that don't necessarily dry out your skin. In fact, they could potentially act as moisturizers, but they are non-drying. Two different fatty alcohols, stearyl alcohol and cetearyl alcohol. They're generally very well tolerated by people with sensitive skin. They're often vegetable derived, frequently from coconut oil. So fatty alcohols are okay, but other alcohols I will avoid if possible, and SD alcohols I will avoid for sure. So then I started looking into some of these products. So first up, the e.l.f. cleansing cloths that made my face go nuts. What is it about these? I want to tell you about a resource that I use to look up ingredients. It's called the EWG Skin Deep Cosmetics Database, ewg.org/skindeep. And on that website, you can look up different products and different ingredients and see what they are, what they do, and what sort of hazard rating has EWG given to them. And the e.l.f. Makeup Removing Cleansing Cloths are listed on the EWG website, and they have a rating of 4 out of 10. Now, the way this rating system works, and these are my words, this is my sort of ballpark in the various things that I've looked at on their website. They've got more details there if you want to visit. But generally, a rating of 4 out of 10 would be potential allergens, potential irritants, but generally low risk. A 5 would be getting up the ladder, potential toxicity, potential cancer risk. When you get into the 6s, you're talking a combination of these things. Combination, toxicity, and highly allergic. You get to a 7, and that's where the parabens come in. So you're talking a combination of parabens or SD alcohols or formaldehyde producing ingredients, those kinds of things. So when you get up in the 8, 9, 10s, yeek, stay away. Getting to be bad stuff. So these wipes, I looked up the ingredients. Overall, the e.l.f. wipes had a rating of 4 out of 10, which should be generally okay. My skin's not super sensitive. But when I looked at the individual ingredients, one that stood out to me was benzyl alcohol. So these are not alcohol-free wipes, so that is a drying alcohol. But it is also a particular ingredient that it has a high likelihood of contact allergy. Now, I don't know if I was having allergic reaction to this, but my skin was burning and stinging and it turned red. I didn't get a long-lasting rash, but my skin was angry. So I think that might have been a bad thing. That ingredient, the benzyl alcohol, actually gets a rating of 5 out of 10 on the sort of irritant and danger scale. The other thing that is in the e.l.f. Makeup Removing Cleansing Cloths is an ingredient, well, I'm going to abbreviate it MI. Let's see if I can say it. Methyl isothiazolinone. I think I got it. MI for short. And that is one of the most common causes of dermatitis, rashes, redness, blistering, all kinds of stuff. So this MI ingredient, yikes, I think that's what my skin really, really didn't like. I believe these e.l.f. cloths are paraben free. I didn't find any ingredients on here that showed up as parabens in the ingredient list, but I'm pretty sure my skin was really angry about that MI. So I will not be using the e.l.f. cloths no matter how cheap they are. Then the Kirkland cloths, the ones that you can get at Costco. I looked up all the ingredients on here. These are marketed as, when you look at the packaging, they say that they are paraben free. They also on the packaging say that they are hypoallergenic, which manufacturers will use that description for items that they believe have fewer ingredients that are likely to cause allergic reactions compared to their competitors. These are marketed as ultra mild and soothing and all that good stuff. So I looked up all the ingredients and it seems that it's pretty true. They're very mild. There's no drying alcohols. They do have fatty alcohol in them, but that's the non-drying kind. They're paraben free. They also contain cucumber, chamomile, aloe, vitamin E, other good stuff for your face. So the fact that they're mild and they're non-drying and they have good stuff and they're paraben free and they're SD alcohol free, I like them. They work well, they remove makeup well, they feel good, they smell nice. I don't use them exclusively unless I'm, camping or traveling and I can't traditionally wash my face. But I use them to remove makeup and then I follow that with a traditional face wash, with a moisturizing face wash. So I also looked up a few other brands of cleansing cloths. I have not used them all, but in case you are using them or interested in using them, I just went to one of those, top 11 facial cleansing cloths on the web and found the most popular ones in the list. So my former favorite actually falls in the avoid category. Neutrogena Deep Clean Oil-Free Makeup Removing Cleansing Cloths. They received a 5 out of 10 rating on EWG, which is not terrible, but they do have the mysterious fragrance. So a lot of companies can use the word fragrance and they don't have to specify what chemicals make up that fragrance. And those chemicals can be some of the ones we just discussed, or other irritants. So fragrance tends to be something that is considered potential allergen, potential irritant if you just see it listed as fragrance. So those Neutrogena cloths, they have the mysterious fragrance and SD alcohols. So I probably used them all through my 30s, and well, whoops, so much for that. I will be avoiding them from now on. But you might not have a problem with them if you don't have dry skin. That's really the only big strike against them. I found a couple that were pretty good. MAC wipes had no red flags except for fragrance. Boots Botanics cleansing face wipes had no red flags, although the quick fix version does have that mysterious fragrance in it. The not so good category, Burt's Bees facial cleansing towelettes had a 4 out of 10 rating on the EWG website. I would avoid them for one reason, and that is they contain several ingredients that are on the banned or restricted list in Europe, the European list. I tend to believe that the Europeans are quite a bit ahead of us on regulating ingredients and product safety and things like that. The Burt's Bees product does have fragrance. It does have benzyl alcohol, which can be drying and an allergen, and it has a couple different ingredients that are banned or restricted in Europe: linalool, amylcinnamel, and citrel, amongst other things. So I would avoid that one. Sephora Express Cleansing Wipes. I do some shopping there. I haven't used their wipes, but I figure I'm there enough. I would certainly be tempted to grab them. They do have fragrance. They've got the benzyl alcohol, the drying alcohol, and they've got that linalool ingredient that is banned in Europe. So I'm probably not going to pick up the Sephora brand. A couple on the definite I will not be using list. CVS Deep Action Makeup Remover Cloths, the oil-free versions, rated 7 out of 10 on the EWG scale. They're a formaldehyde releaser. Also have the mysterious, potentially allergen fragrance, and they have parabens. Definitely not getting those. Simple brand, cleansing facial wipes, scored a 6 out of 10, which is not good. They are a formaldehyde releaser and contain parabens. And lastly, the Olay Clean and Mild Makeup Remover Cloths. I do tend to like Olay, but they rated a 5 out of 10 on the EWG scale, a formaldehyde releaser, and also had the irritant fragrance. But the formaldehyde, that's on my big no list. So those are some of the cleansing cloths that I looked up. Check out that EWG website for products that you use. If they list the product, then you get a score right then and there. If they don't list the product, you can still go through the ingredient list and check them one by one to find out what's in them and what kind of issues might be associated with those ingredients. So I hope you guys have found this helpful. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it and found it helpful. Feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for checking us out. Have a good day. Take care.